Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by the emotional up and down being a San Francisco Bay Area sports fan can have in just 1 week. In 1 week, in the last, I guess actually it's been 2 weeks since I've spoken to you guys. We've had a Clippers series that went a game too long, arguably 2 games too long. Then we had an NFL draft that started like gangbusters and then got extremely perplexing in the third and fourth round. Then we have a game against the Houston Rockets, which was crazy. We win that. We have the elation of that. And then we have the fallout of a 24-hour news cycle that basically becomes an in-depth discussion of fouling, flopping, and we have to hear the Rockets just whine for 2 days on end and then bring up 80. I'll get into that afterwards. then on top of that, we also have to watch our blessed Warriors go through very similar frustrations on the court. And so it has just been an emotional up and down time for San Francisco Bay Area sports fans. This is it. Before we get started, Raymond, the greatest fanalist in the game, is not present for today's episode. He will return a little bit later, but he will not be available for this episode. You get me, Rudy Solis III, the professor of fanalism. Here we are. Let's go. Classes in session. So check this out. Remember, you can find us on youtube.com/thegoldcast. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. You can find us pretty much anywhere great podcasts are sold. Ours is free. It costs you $0, like most podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. We get a lot of comments on the YouTube page, which is always awesome. Love getting comments on the YouTube page. People are very active there. It's a great place. We like to read comments that we enjoy. So if you like to reach out, you like to have your opinion heard on the GoldCast, that is the place to find us. So let's get into this. There's so much to unpack. I don't even know. Even as a one-man show today, I don't know if we have enough time to get through all of my thoughts. As I said, your professor of fanalism is here. Class is in session. Let's get busy.
San Francisco, are you ready?
This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is you and me, Rudy Solis III. This is it. This is a solo GoldCast mission. We are here. Let's go. Oh man. Okay, where do I start? Let's start with the most contemporary thing, which I was going to say is probably going to be the Golden State Warriors versus the Houston Rockets game 1. Great ending, tough game. I've heard a lot of people say that this is really interesting. All right, like I said, class is in session. Let's talk about some fanalism here. Let's talk about fan perspectives. This is what's really interesting about fan perspectives, is that fan perspectives, it can color how you see things. And one of the things I try to do as a professor of fanalism is I try my best to really observe my own biases and then also try to objectively look at what I think I'm seeing in front of me, while at the same time understanding that I do have a bias towards my teams. I do have a bias towards the things that I'm seeing. And so it can get really tricky, and there's a constant back and forth. And sometimes there are moments where I'm like, I am literally just watching fan bias, team bias just play out to the ultimate level. And I think that really, really reared its ugly head during game 1 of the Houston Rockets at the Golden State Warriors. So first and foremost, it was a great game. I loved the game. Man, the offensive display on both these teams, and don't get me wrong, I can't stand the Rockets, but the offensive display from both these teams was jaw-dropping. It's incredible to see shooters at this level. I liked the defense. I thought the Warriors really stepped it up. KD has been playing out of his mind. It's really interesting because I've seen this a lot from him in the last couple games. You know, they've been trying really hard to take KD's three-point shot away from him because he's so dangerous there. So he's just been doing this mid-range jumper, and it's just death by a tiny 1,000 cuts. And it's awesome to see just these mid-range jumpers, which shouldn't work against a team like the Houston Rockets, who, you know, manipulate their way into trying to basically get 4 points out of every three-pointer. We're going to talk about that in a second. That manipulate their way into juking the system so that they can get the most amount of points they possibly can. 3 from a 2-point layup or 2-point shot, and then 4 from a 3-point, anything beyond the 3-point line. So it was interesting to see KD using this tactic and it being successful. It was a tight game, 105-100. And what's really interesting here is that Steph Curry wasn't 100%. Right? Klay Thompson wasn't 100%. I'm hoping they'll be 100% tomorrow, Tuesday, for Game 2. I really am. I'm hoping they'll be 100%, or at least something closer to 90. Steph didn't have a bad game. Obviously, the dagger 3 at the end was fantastic and was just a huge, huge moment, and that dagger 3 was awesome. But we're still seeing a Warriors team that is not on full display. And it's interesting because people that believe the Rockets are going to win, and this is a tough series. I'm very nervous about this series. I think it's going to go Rockets in 6 or Warriors in 7. I think that's how this game is going to go down. I hear people saying Warriors in 5. Oof, man, that's some overconfidence there. I could see us going up 2-0 tomorrow and then dropping 2 in Houston. I really could see that. Now, Golden State seems to really thrive playing on the road right now, and that's great. That's a huge tool that you need when you're in the post, especially in basketball, because we all know how insanely difficult it is to win on the road. Those crowds have a real effect on them. You know what it reminds me of? I've said this before on the GoldCast before, but I used to be a pro b-boy back in the late 90s, like 99, 2000, 2001. Used to compete all over California. Now, being a pro b-boy is a pretty cool thing. It's not nearly as glorious as it sounds. It's not like being a pro skater. You know, it was a lot less. Being a pro b-boy, you're like, competitions, you're making $50 to $250, $300 per competition, and when you're 19, that's a lot of money. But it's not something you can actually like hang your hat on. But there's you get to be on a lot of videos. You meet a lot of people. You get in a lot of events for free. It was a great run. I was really proud of it. But the thing about b-boy circles, so let me explain something about a b-boy circle. When you're competing and you're going against like the home crew, right? The crew that's from the city that the competition is being held in, and you're surrounded by 200, 300 people that are literally, the crowd is right there on the floor with you. Every little thing they do gets magnified like it's the greatest thing that's ever been done. And you, as the competitor, will do something great, and there's just silence. There's no sound. No one cheers for you. And it's the weirdest thing, especially because in breakdancing, that roar of approval from the crowd is also proof that you have succeeded at whatever move and set you were trying to pull off, right? Basketball is the same thing in terms of that roar of the crowd. When you're on the wrong side as a b-boy, it could be so draining. So when you're on the wrong side in basketball, it is so draining, right? So it's very hard to win on the road, and the Warriors seem to thrive on the road. And I think our best bet is to pull these 2 out. If we can pull these 2 out, we can win tomorrow and defend the home front for Game 2. That puts us in so much better position. But if we have to go into Houston tied 1-1, I'm very nervous about that. I'm really, really nervous about it. And the one thing that you can hang your hat on is that at least Golden State seems to thrive playing on the road right now, because those crowds are no joke. All right, so great game. Love seeing Draymond. I feel like we've been seeing vintage Draymond this whole postseason. You know, Bob Myers challenged him, GM of the Warriors challenged him to lose weight. He said, I need you to lose 15 pounds. If this team is going to go all the way, I need you to be at your peak physical best. You need to lose at least 15 pounds. Draymond went above and beyond, as he does with everything, and he lost 23. My one complaint is that Draymond's got to stop jawing with the refs. Stop jawing. They're just itching to give you a tech. So knock it off. Just play the damn game. That's one of the hard parts that was frustrating. I'm starting to slowly work my way into this foul conversation because you've heard everyone talk about it, and I'm not going to say a whole lot. I'm just going to talk about it from the fan perspective. So just stop jawing with the refs because they are just looking and itching, especially for a guy like Draymond, to give him a tech. He already has 3. Come on. Okay, so he has 7. He gets out. We already know what happened. Last time he got suspended for a game, we lost an NBA Finals. Okay, so let's not just slow your roll. Okay, so going down to the fouls. It's really frustrating, and it's funny because you talk to any Rockets fan or anybody who hates the Warriors, which is virtually everybody outside of the Bay Area now, and they're like, man, the refs are so on the Warriors' side. Oh my God. First of all, the refs have been picking on the Warriors nonstop through the entire Clippers series. And maybe that's just my bias coming into play. Maybe other Golden State fans don't see it, but I feel like they really, especially in Game 5, that was ridiculous. Anyways, going back to this. Oh, that's, they're not calling anything on the Rockets. Are you kidding me? They got to the line a ton. The two big ones in question, is the Chris Paul one where he literally throws his hip into Sean Livingston. He threw his hip. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then, of course, the one at the end with James Harden and Draymond Green, where James Harden basically jumps 2 feet in front of himself, lands on the floor, feet up, trying to draw the foul. Here's my thing. That I don't understand. If I was a Rockets fan, I feel like I'm rational enough to know that kind of play, that kind of a attempt at drawing a foul, they're not on the right side of the rule book right there. And I feel like I'm unbiased enough and neutral enough of a fan to realize that if I saw that, I'd be like, nah, we're getting kind of sneaky right there. It's all good. Like, I gotta let those two go. Like, I can't call those. Come on, man. Even us as Rockets fans, we have to admit that they were totally trying to draw those fouls. But no, they're adamant about it. And even fans who hate the Warriors, they're like, no, man. Draymond Green was in his I can't remember what the damn thing is called, jump space or whatever. First of all, who the F knows what that is? Since when did you ever know that? When did we all become experts on that area? Since when? And then Harden with the little dig about going back to Kawhi Leonard. Well, we all know what happened there, and where he landed on Jaja Pachulia and hurt his ankle and got himself knocked out of the game. That little manipulative, passive-aggressive little mind bomb right there. Well. Okay, first of all, it was a total accident. Second of all, Kawhi Leonard didn't purposely try to land on top of Zaza Pachulia to draw a foul that had he just landed normally, it wouldn't have been called. He went up, he went straight down. It was a total accident. You are legitimately trying to land 2 feet in front of you to draw a foul that's technically not a foul. You're trying to juke the stats. You're trying to exploit the rules as they are constructed to generate 4 points out of 3, which I get. You've been doing this for 2 years straight. Chris Paul too. But I understand the bending of the rules, but then it just gets really frustrating when, I'm not going to say that they're cheating, but I'm going to say they're one level below it at that point. You know what I mean? It's flopping. Essentially, you could call it flopping, right? Which is, flopping, but I mean, we're flopping, but we're also pretending something is happening here that isn't happening. Chris Paul's literally throwing himself into Sean Livingston, bending his hip at this insane angle. I'm thinking, man, you keep landing like that, you're gonna mess up that hamstring again. James Harden kicking his feet and landing. He's landing on Draymond Green. Draymond Green didn't move. He goes up and down, right, basically in the same exact spot. And then he lands on Draymond and is like, hey, where's the foul? And my whole frustration with other fans, it's all good. It's all good. We're all fans. We're all biased. We all think our team, everyone thinks their team is getting ripped on. Everyone thinks that the refs are against their own team. Everyone thinks that the commentators are always biased against their teams. We all think Joe Buck hates our team, right? We all think that. But at the same time, you have to have a little bit of neutrality here. Come on, you cannot possibly tell me whether or not you hate the Warriors is besides the point. Whether or not you're a Houston Rockets fan is besides the point. You can't tell me that you can look at those two plays objectively and tell me that the Warriors did anything wrong there. And those are the two plays that we keep seeing getting pulled up over and over and over again. And now the Rockets just released this thing where they said they analyzed Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, and the refs missed 81 calls. Well, you know who missed 27 three-pointers? The fucking Rockets. So get over it. Just get over it. It drives me nuts. And again, coming from the fan, as a fan, I live in an international city, as you guys know. I'm born and raised San Francisco native. I now live in Los Angeles. I have to hear, San Francisco sports hate all the time but very international city. San Francisco is an international city, but it's also there's only like 800,000 people there, 850. There's 8 to 10 million here. That's a huge difference. The sheer numbers, anything that exists in the thousands in San Francisco exists in the millions in LA. So the numbers are just so much exponentially larger. The only city bigger than us is New York, than Los Angeles. So I just have to hear it all the time. But I'm just like, get over it. Don't be biased, be protective, but at the same time, be objective. Okay? Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time with a stupid ass response and pretend that something is happening that's not, because you're literally just pretending, and that drives me nuts. Just don't pretend, because I can look at those plays objectively, and if the Warriors were landing in their spaces and not doing that, if they were doing that, I would be able to admit it and be like, yeah, the refs are kind of being biased for the Warriors right now, and I understand why it sucks for them. Oh well, whatever. I'm a Warriors fan. I don't care. But I could objectively acknowledge what's happening. But don't sit here and watch and then pretend that something is happening that's not. Don't sit here and tell me that the Rockets aren't trying to juke the stats right there and they're not being babies, because they're being complete babies, because their manipulation and their flops aren't being called. Why is that the ref's obligation? Oh, I just want James Harden. I just want a game called fairly. Well, he did call it fairly. He didn't fall for your bullshit. Super simple. So I don't get it. Anyways, that's my rant. It's frustrating as it is. And that whole thing, I don't know if you saw, go on Bleacher Report, that whole thing where the Rockets said they reanalyzed Game 7 and there's 81 missed calls. Well, like I said, great. Well, there's also 27 missed three-pointers. So maybe you should have landed 3 of those and we wouldn't have this conversation. Be better. Be better fans. Be a better team. All right, there we go. My rant is done. Moving on. So let's talk about the draft. You know the draft, the 49ers draft. So first of all, let's talk about day 1, because that's the best day. Drafting Nick Bosa. What did we say? I think my biggest fear was that the 49ers were going to get cute. Trade down, or go somewhere else, grab someone else, get cute. That was what I was afraid the 49ers were going to do, when all we had to do was one thing: draft Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, or Quinnen Williams. That's all we got to do, right? Just draft one of those 3 guys. I would have been happy with any of the 3. Bosa seemed to fit our system the best. So that was the guy I wanted and was the most excited about. And he goes, right? Best fan moment, you guys all saw it, right? If you haven't seen it, go onto Twitter and check this out. Is the moment when they have that big showing of the 49er faithful. I don't even know where that was. Where was that? Someone tell me where that was in San Francisco. Where was that event, that giant draft party that had looked like the entire city was in a warehouse? I hope they were playing house music afterwards, because that'd be classic San Francisco. So they call Nick Bosa. The whole crowd goes crazy. I go crazy. I am jumping and screaming in my house. I swear to God, I thought my apartment building was going to fall down. I was just going bananas. Bananas. Great pick, right? We didn't get cute. We didn't overthink it. We needed pass rush. Went and got the best one available. The one with the highest potential, the highest ceiling, right there. Boom, we got him. Right? So, great. That's all we got to do. That's all we had to do. Okay, day 2 comes around, right? 36 pick overall in round 2. We get Deebo Samuel, wide receiver, South Carolina. All right, okay, not bad. 62 passes for 882 yards, 11 touchdowns in 2018. He was coached by the 49ers back in January at the Senior Bowl. Okay, great. Apparently big, high on a lot of people's draft boards. Okay, we need another wide receiver, sure. Then this is where it starts to get weird. Round 3, 67th overall pick, Jalen Hurd, wide receiver from Baylor. Back-to-back wide receivers. And Jalen, from everything I've read, is a little bit more, he's a little bit more versatile. He could possibly even run out of the backfield for us. I don't watch college, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a bunch about these guys. There's way other podcasts that do that stuff, and that's what they do. This isn't, again, I'm just looking at this from a fan perspective. I am not a football professional scout. You, listening to this podcast, are not a football professional scout. But let me ask you something, just from a logical perspective, okay? Just between you and me. Listen close. Why do we need 2 wide receivers back-to-back? Aren't we hurting really bad in the secondary right now? So why don't we get a cornerback in round 3? Just one cornerback. If we're going to take a flyer on Jalen Hurd, we already have Dante Pettis. We have Marquise Goodwin. We now have Deebo Samuels. We have Tevin freaking Coleman, in my opinion, the best, arguably the best get out of free agency. We have Jerick McKinnon coming back. I'm not super high on Jerick McKinnon. Other people are really high, but he's there. So we have George Kittle right there. So, you know what we don't have? Name one good cornerback for the 49ers. So why do we go with Jalen Hurd? Somebody explain this to me. If you explain to me why, this is what I want to hear from the GoldCast. If you have an answer for this, explain to me why we don't go Jalen Hurd, or why we go Jalen Hurd in round 3. Then it gets even more perplexing. Round 4, 110th overall. Got it from the Bengals. We get Mitch Wishnowsky, punter from Utah. Why did we draft a punter? 6'2", 218 pounds, has a 45.7 yard punt average over 3 years at Utah. There were 100 total return yards over his past 106 punts, but I mean, what's that got to do with him? I mean, I guess the kick, but it's not like he's tackling these guys. It's almost like fantasy draft. Like, why would you grab a punter in the 4th round? Again, why is the secondary not addressed 2 rounds in a row? No safeties, no corners, nothing. We get a wide receiver and a punter. The next punter was picked 56 places later. I just don't get it. These are the most perplexing parts of the draft. We get a linebacker in round 5, 148th overall from the Broncos, traded up with Broncos, Dre Greenlaw. Linebacker from Arkansas, 5'11", 237 pounds. Recorded 321 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions over 4 seasons with the Razorbacks. He's a run and chase will linebacker. Okay. Then round 6, 176 overall, Caden Smith, tight end, because we need to address that. We need another tight end. We have literally the best tight end in the league. And I'm not saying that you can just depend on that, but again, where's the cornerbacks? Where's the safeties? Where's anybody that's addressing an area of need? 2 wide receivers back-to-back. I get we're losing our punter, but come on. For real, the 4th pick in the draft? The 4th pick? And then then here we get a tight end in the 6th pick? We have the best tight end in the league. And then we go offensive tackle. Round 6, 183rd overall. Listen to me. This is Justin Scully? I don't know. 6'7", 317 pounds. That's about as big as I am. Started all 25 games for the Commodores over the last 2 seasons and became a dependable tackle. He played right tackle to begin his career before making the switch to the left side. Okay, let me put it this way. You're never going to complain out of me if we get O-line. Again, my rule, what did I say last year? And I'm going to say it again this year. Jimmy Garoppolo should never be allowed, no human should be allowed to put their hands on Jimmy G. If his grandmother goes in for a hug, I want a tackle there to slap her down. I want him to be like the Bubble Boy from that, the John Travolta movie from like a billion years ago where he was in the bubble and he couldn't leave the bubble. Anyone under 30 is going to be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. There's this movie where John Travolta, when he's a kid, he plays like this bubble boy, and he's in this bubble, and like he can't leave the bubble because he has some sort of debilitating disease, and if he walks out of the bubble, he's gonna die, right? And then the whole movie is about him trying to make the decision to actually leave the bubble because of some girl. I want Jimmy G to be like the bubble boy. You cannot touch him. No one can touch him. No one can touch him while he plays as the 49ers quarterback. Because look at that. Well, look what happened. He tore his ACL on his own. We didn't even need help. No one even touched him. And he tore his ACL. So I literally, if his grandma goes in for a hug at Thanksgiving, I want a lineman there from the 49ers to jump and slap her arms down and push her to the ground. Sorry, Grandma G. But it's just got to be like this for the next 10 years. Once we get past this, you give all the hugs you want on Thanksgiving. But for now, nobody can touch Jimmy G. He's the boy in the bubble. Okay, so I'm never going to have an issue with them drafting a tackle. Okay, then in round 6, 198th overall from the Bengals, Tim Harris, cornerback, Virginia. So now we address the cornerback position. So now we finally address this area of much, much need for us. And again, I'm just perplexed. Why does this take this long? Why did we draft a punter, a tight end, 2 back-to-back wide receivers before getting a cornerback? Why is the cornerback literally the last position that we draft? It's very perplexing to me. I found this very, very, very perplexing. So a little bit about our final pick. Harris, 6'2", 197 pounds, about the same size as me. Played for 6 seasons at Virginia, which included 2 medical redshirt seasons. Those are my favorite. He posted 36 total tackles and 2 interceptions as a senior in 2018. Over the course of his entire career with the Cavaliers, he racked up 109 tackles and 4 picks. Okay, remember what I said at the beginning? I just didn't want the 49ers to get cute. And it felt like we got a little cute. Felt like we overthought things, and we went for some reaches that seemed unnecessary. Again, I just think that in this draft, really your area of need above everything was pass rush and the secondary. And I think we did a great job in free agency and with the first pick of shoring up and addressing the pass rush. But then we just completely have ignored secondary, and I don't understand why. You know who else used to ignore that secondary? Was Mr. Balky. So this just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like where this is going. This reminds me of Balky, right? And as we've said in the past, we were really great with that front 7. That front 4 was just super nasty in the Harbaugh era, but we tended to just let cornerback after cornerback go. And you know who didn't do that? The Seattle Seahawks. They didn't do that. And they ended up winning a Super Bowl. They went twice, won one. We went once, lost one. So there you go. Again, you take with it what you will, but that was frustrating. So I went on to the 49er website. There was an article there that said the 49er draft grades. And I could care less about the ones who gave us the great grades. I wanted to see what people said the lower grades. So Yahoo Sports gave us a C+. So here's what Yahoo Sports said. They said best pick, Nick Bosa. Worst pick, Wishanowski, the punter. They said drafting punters isn't the worst football affront, but it's not far off. That would be drafting kickers. This was an area of need with Bradley Pinion leaving via free agency, but the value here left us irritated. Wishanowski, who'll be a 27-year-old rookie, was the first punter selected, but might not have been as good a prospect as Stanford's Jake Bailey, who was drafted 53 slots later. The secondary was a spot they should have addressed prior to round 7. And Iowa safety Amani Hooker, a top 50 prospect for us, meaning Yahoo's analysts, was still amazingly on the board. After a strong start to the draft, this class leaves us wanting more. Will they get more than 3 considerable contributors out of the group? There were way too many unanswered voids. Agreed. The next big drop was CBS Sports. Okay, so CBS Sports here. They said, I'll tell you exactly what CBS Sports said. Best pick, Bosa. Worst pick, punter, Mitch Wishanowski in the 4th round. Why? You don't draft punters this early, if at all. I don't care how good he is and can be. I like their pick of Nick Bosa, but wasn't enamored with the rest of their draft. They did add receivers Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd, but there were better options when they took both, in my mind. I agree. And then the last one, Sporting News, gave us a C+. Let's go to Sporting News. All right, so Sporting News. They said John Lynch started with a no-pick brainer of Bosa, the best overall talent in the draft, but the 49ers, giving the 49ers a good base. He got creative with Samuel and Hurd, and Smith was a good value late. This class pales in comparison to Lynch's recent work, however. I agree. Again, it was really perplexing and a bit frustrating, and I don't really know what to think overall about this draft. So I want to know what you think. So go on to youtube.com. That's where most people tend to post, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter and Instagram. I'll give you those handles at the end, and let me know what you think as another fan. Okay, tell me what you think. Am I wrong? And if I'm wrong, tell me. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear why I'm wrong and why this is not a perplexing draft, because I really think it was. All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Rudy Solis 3RD and Instagram at Rudy Solis 3. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis 3rd, and we'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.